What is the most messed up thing a person you know has done? My uncle left my aunt for their son's wife. Edit. Not long after, their son, my cousin, married another woman with the same name and visits his dad and ex-friend was in her final year of uni. Had strong grades, and a really great internship lined up with a place she dreamed about working at, that almost certainly would have led to a great job. Her parents faked her younger brother's death on the day where she had 3 finals back to back to back. They wanted to test whether she cared more about her family or her career, supposedly. She raced home in panic and grief, getting plane tickets and flying across the country, trying to get deferred exams on short notice. One of her profs, who helmed 2 of those classes, required a death certificate, which she couldn't get, since her brother was alive and well. She didn't get to graduate because of that, at least not in that semester, and she lost her dream internship thankfully. She got a good job after graduating half a year later, not nearly as good as the one she lost out on, and she's largely cut her parents out of her life. My uncle is a real piece of shit. The scummiest human being I believe I will ever know. The most messed up thing he's done is actually a cycle that he's repeated far too many times: start a family, then run. He'll convincing these women he's a good guy has changed is a victim was in the wrong place wrong time or whatever, gets them pregnant, and leaves once the baby is out. And then to leave, he's always desperate for money, so he does something shitty to family members to get out of there. Steal my dad's identity, open new credit cards, attempt to transfer a bank card to his name and drain it. Take a business loan with his first son, take it all and dip. To top it all off, sometime he goes back to the women after the kid is popped out to manipulate them into effing again. Bro has been in and out of jail his whole life, and I wish that he would just sit in there and rot. Every couple of years I have strangers reaching out, saying they're part of Aaron's family with so-and-so and they want to meet their extended family, and we're like, who the hell is so-and-so? You hate Aaron? Yeah, us too, welcome to the family. I know 3 Aaron Juniors with different moms named after the same dousebag. To my knowledge he's up to 5 families. 3 of those have 2 kids. 0 of those kids he raised. He's currently missing, so following the cycle, he's gonna pop up again soon, with some woman, either pregnant or with child, and be like, OMG, I got my life together fam. Come here, let's be friends. Then do some slimy shit to try to get money from someone. Aaron, you suck. Piece of shit. I was getting out of the army and had put back over $70,000 for a home for my family. My mother got my banking information and took every penny for drugs. When I tried suing, my family disowned me. When I was a drill sergeant, I'd see lots of young people with a parent on their bank account ID advise them to remove anyone other than a spouse. Because I'd seen parents take their young soldiers' money many times. Kid I, 25M, used to be friends with in high school, let's call him Jake, got into benzodiazepines around junior year. He had stolen some Xanax from a drug dealer, and the dealer showed up at his house to take the drugs back. Jake, barred out of his mind and scared of getting killed, beat up by the drug dealer, swung an axe at the drug dealer, sticking it directly into his skull. Drug dealer lived, and even took a selfie, which got passed around school, of him with blood all over his face and the axe stuck in his skull. Both ended up going to juvie, I believe. I was friends with a girl who was obsessed with babies. You know how some girls really like horses? She was like that with babies. Not kids, just babies and toddlers. She was only friends with me because I babysat a lot. I found out later she would take used diapers out of the ladies' bathroom. I finally have an answer for AskReddit. I work for a gardening company and we have guys come and go on the regular. One guy we'll call Mike, because that's his name, worked for us for a while and built up a relationship with one of the customers, Wilfred, name changed to protect the innocent. Anyway, Wilfred was around 90 years old and a veteran of World War II, he was also completely blind. He had this old BMW sitting in his cluttered garage, the thing looked like it hadn't moved in a couple of decades. The car was his pride and joy in his younger days, and he would tell anyone who would listen about how he used to drive himself and his wife to the local town to go dancing. Anyway, Mike told Wilfred he would take the car home and fix it up and bring it back when it was all sorted. It was decided if he could get the old girl purring again, Wilfred would pay Mike a pretty penny. What Mike actually did was drive it straight to a scrap yard, sell it for scrap value, then lie through his teeth every time Wilfred asked about it. No, he wasn't fired. So yeah, I think that's the most disgusting thing I have seen anyone do. Steal from a blind old man. He went to his wife's work New Year's party and got really drunk. He suddenly decided his wife was having an affair with her boss. A loud shouting match ensued and he suddenly pulled out a gun. He shot his wife, her boss, and himself in the head. He and her boss were DOA. His wife lost her vision but survived. They had 3 small children. I found out a teenage girl at my church and her 2 sisters were being molested by their stepdad. I called the police and reached out to the girl's parents who always brought her to church. They already knew and hadn't said anything. Eventually I found out a dozen people, including their mother, knew but they all preferred it to be handled by the church. Edit, the stepdad was a Christian pastor. Also it's scary how many people have commented about having similar experiences. My friend's dad stabbed his wife in a heated argument and blew up their house while he, dad, was still inside. Heard the explosion from my own bedroom. Luckily my friend and his sister were elsewhere. The local newspaper articles were hauntingly graphic about it. Shot 8 of my, and his, friends to death. I was friends with him and his wife, mostly her, but they separated and were filing for divorce. One evening, he got angry and super drunk and went to her new home where she was having a football watching party and he opened fire on everyone. Including his own friends, 2 were in his wedding as groomsmen. He collected a lot of guns, so he had plenty at his disposal. Slaughtered just about everyone that was there at the time. The neighbors said you could smell the gunpowder in the air he shot so many times. I was invited to her party but opted out because it was on a Sunday night and I didn't want to drink at the party and then have to drive 40 minutes home. It saved my life. He received death by cop once the first officer arrived. He wasn't dropping his weapons and was about to shoot at the officer. I don't trust people, but now I don't trust my own gut. I never thought he'd be capable of something that atrocious. Makes me question my own decision-making when it comes to making friends. My cousin was killed because a guy decided he'd kill himself by flooring it into another car on a major road. My cousin died, and his girlfriend had to undergo multiple extensive surgeries. The guy survived with minor injuries. Someone I knew watched their husband having a grand mal seizure and held off calling 911 for over 20 minutes because she was hoping he would die. He died 4 days later after emergency surgery. No investigation. My brother had a friend whose wife had left him. My brother and his friend get high and come up the brilliant idea to win her back. The plan was for the friend to pretend to hang himself while my brother ran to the wife's house and begged her to come and stop him. Then she would see how much he loved her and they would get back together. So they position him in a barn with a noose around his neck. My brother runs to get the wife only she isn't even home. My brother goes back to the barn and the guy really did hang himself. My brother is so high, he doesn't even think to cut him down. Guy I went to high school with beat his GF to death and spent less than 6 months in jail. He slept with his son's long-term girlfriend. Like his son's first love. Told his son like it was no big deal. He told us about it at work, and said his son was being a bit of a bitch about it. We then watched his life fall apart as both his kids cut him out of their lives. Dude found out he became a grandpa from his older daughter via an email with no pictures. As you can imagine, sleeping with his son's GF was the worst thing I'm aware of that he's done, but he was a horrible person generally speaking. One day out of the blue I was thinking about an old childhood friend I hadn't seen in well over a decade, closer to 2 probably. Thought it would be fun to Google their name and see what they were up to. They were in prison for raping a minor under the age of 14. Immediately felt sick to my stomach, was in complete shock. Took a couple days to shake off. So many fun memories from my childhood now ruined cause I can't help thinking about his crime. Never Googling any old friends again. It messed me up real good for a bit. My mother murdered my father and her next partner. Used crushed OxyContin the first time, then a shotgun the second time. My father never woke up after drinking his morning Mountain Dew. Her next partner had his head blown off his neck with a shotgun. Since he died over an open heating vent, all the ductwork in the house had to be replaced due to pools of accumulated blood. The other murders were elderly folks that she knocked off in the adult foster care home she ran, all dying from mysterious circumstances. Turned out she had convinced some of them to include her in their will and even retirement funds. She always picked old folks with few or no living family members as residents at her care home. After her incarceration the second time, I found boxes of fraudulent paperwork replete with forgeries and lies. But the murders are not the worst thing she did. She always despised her daughter, my baby sister. because she was the apple of our father's eye and my mother was an insanely jealous and competitive person. When my sister was only 10, my mother was looking for a groundskeeper for her 31-acre estate. She found a crotchety old hick from Arkansas who she confirmed was a registered sex offender, in 2 different states, flew him from there and hired him to take care of her property, giving him a single-wide mobile home to live in at the edge of the property. She would drop off my baby sister to his trailer a few times a month to be raped. The old fuck even videotaped some of the rape sessions, which the police later found on a hard drive. After about a year of the child molestation brokered by my mother, she convinced, brainwashed, my baby sister, who was 11 then, that she was in a special relationship with the groundskeeper. A 54-year-old dumpster fire of a human being. I have a hard time forgiving her for any of the murders, especially my father's. But I will never forgive her unconscionable monstrosity of sending her own daughter to be repeatedly raped and sexually abused by a registered sex offender she literally found and flew halfway across the country in order to specifically commit such heinous acts, all because she was jealous of the loving attention her husband showed to his own daughter. Dateline MSNBC did an episode on her which aired in late summer of 2010. My mother is still alive and well after completing her second prison stint a few years ago. She is now married to an evangelical preacher QAnon nutwing who apparently is either the bravest or stupidest man on the planet to be with her. I have not spoken to her in over a decade, nor do I ever intend to. Her actions in the early 2000s imploded our beautiful family, and I am still reeling from those events. I feel like throwing up even sharing this, but it's a necessary catharsis. I know someone who was doing a semester abroad in China during college. She let her boyfriend at the time fly out from the US for a week-plus visit, knowing she was going to dump him the second she saw him. She did it because it would have been too hard to dump him over the phone. Edit to add more details as I'm remembering this. The guy did not speak Chinese, and he didn't have enough money to change his flight, so he just kinda bumbled around China for a week being miserable. My best friend at the time had depression and drinking issues. One night he got really drunk and I think drugs were in the mix and he stole a gun out of his neighbor's barn and shot one of his toes off on purpose. He's doing better now, thankfully. My ex-best friend slept with a coworker that was freshly married and had a newborn. In the wife's car. Twice. A previous work colleague got back together with his girlfriend after they had been on a break that he later found out she was pregnant with the other guy's baby. So he paid 2 guys to hijack them, drive them to a secluded location, shoot her through the stomach to kill the baby and shoot him in the shoulder to make it look like a genuine hijacking. He was caught because he didn't pay the 2 guys and they ratted him out. He is now sitting in a South African jail. My bipolar alcoholic brother has a history of beating and choking his girlfriends. He moved in with my elderly father after my mom died and refused to leave, and my dad refused to make him leave or press charges against the domestic abuse because it was his son. My dad couldn't find peace in his own home and I was powerless to stop it. On different occasions my brother broke my dad's finger, almost broke his leg, and threw a knife and hit him handle first in the head and knocked a gash in his head. If it had been blade first he likely would have died. Still no charges. Luckily the arrests and other trouble piled up until he spent time in jail and rehab and got his own place, and I've moved my father closer to me now so I can protect him better and he can have a safe place to live. My brother is already talking about moving to my dad's old house for free since nobody is living there, since everybody basically had to move away to be safe from him. He's a total degenerate piece of shit. My dad cheated on my mom for a year and hid it. He got fired because it was with a coworker but told us all he got laid off. We all spent a year feeling bad for him and trying to help him out. Meanwhile he was sneaking around using his severance money to take his mistress out on little trips and shit. It's the worst thing anyone I know has ever done, and it was from the guy I should be looking up to. There's a lot to pick from, but one of my ex-coworkers euthanized her 2 cats because she was getting a new couch and didn't want them to ruin it. She told us this at work and didn't get why she got a bunch of blank stares back. There was a decomposing dead cat stuck between a fence and a wall next to the gym in my school. If physical education was our first lesson, we had to wait in front of the gym until someone fetched the keys. My friend Jason went to fetch the keys and left his bag. This fat class bully Toby used 2 sticks to pick up the dead cat, opened Jason's bag, and put the cat in. Jason hasn't noticed anything until we were in the locker room. He opened the bag, saw the dead cat, dropped the bag, cat fell apart, soup of rotten cat insides crawling with maggots splashed to the floor. Class was cancelled. Cleaning company had to disinfect the locker room. A girl who I used to call my best friend told me her stepdad molested her, so I moved her into my house. I got her enrolled in college. She lived with me for 4 months before her mum said they bought a dog and she could move back with the stepdad. She did. Obviously this was annoying, but I stood by her and stayed friends. Then one day I was going through old chats with a different friend for fun and found out that the ex-best friend used my email to set up a Facebook, resulting in me accidentally logging in. I found nudes of myself that she took of me while asleep, 15 years old at the time, sent to random men who she had no previous chat history with, but worst of all I saw she had sent photos of my nephew and brother to a dude and told her that my brother raped her and that's her son. She gave out our address because the guy threatened to kill him. She also told him their names and ages. I was fuming. I let her do so much shit to me, but now she went for my brother who had recently tried to take his life. I have never been so upset. I confronted her on the phone and she had no words except "I'm sorry." I erased her from my life, didn't tell my brother, and deleted any existence she had in my home or phone, etc. My friend went to party out of the country with his GF, his male friend and his female friend. They were at the club and his female friend, who is his GF's best friend, told him that she has never kissed anyone and that she wants her first kiss to be special. He grabbed her head and started French kissing her while she tried to make him stop. His GF was laughing about it. Afterwards, he recorded her crying about it in a taxi while mocking her, and he posted that vid to his close friends on Instagram. Still affects me to this day. Grandfather used to raise German Shepherd puppies on their farm. One puppy of the litter had some sort of problem. It was too long ago and I don't remember what. I was single-digit age when this happened. He took the puppy by the back of the legs and swung it around, smashing its head into a metal trash burning barrel until it died. He then threw it in the barrel for burning later. 2 people I went to high school with are in jail for a very long time because they neglected their infant from pretty much day one. He just played video games and never tended to its needs. Then the grandma came over and found the baby dead in its crib. Still no real reason, and I don't even think they were on hard drugs. My friend Mike once shit in his hand just to see what it felt like. I thought that was pretty messed up until I read some of the other shit on here.